Hi everyone, here we are at Logic, and this is the Elberbird flying with a 10 amp lithium ion pack, a 4S2P with the 21750 cells rather than the 18650. It's a pack I got from Banggood, from its Zod, made by Zod, and it seems to be quite good. Nice size, and it seems to be quite efficient without being too heavy. I'm still not sure whether the 21750 cells are better than the 18650, but they certainly allow you to use a little bit more amperage than the 18650s. Not that this is a problem with this flight. But anyway, I've launched. I've got my mate JW with me. He's launched me. And he's taking off now in his Ranger 1600. And I'm just flying out to a little dam out from takeoff, and I'm going to circle that in a clockwise direction, and he's going to fly in above me and try and lock in, and we'll head off. This is a great site to fly because the takeoff is slightly higher, about 20 feet. 20 to 30 feet, say 10 metres, higher than the surrounding area. Now, JW sort of found me, but then lost me and told me just to head to the road and follow the road down, which I've done. And he's coming up behind me, trying to find me. But like the title of this video, we're a bit rusty. And JW's having a bit of trouble finding me. Normally he locks straight in, but today, not going so good. Now, you might have seen him fly in front of me. I missed commentating on it, but he did fly across in front, and I told him to look right. And then he told me, well, you better turn right over the crossroads, and he would try and find me. So I'm circling again in a reasonably tight sort of circle so he can see me without me travelling over too much terrain. And I'm just waiting for him to actually say, yeah, I've got you. And when he says that, I will resume the correct heading, which is out to the north, slightly west of north. So there you go, he's got me. Now I've locked in to roughly the direction. It's a little bit more left than that. And he's going to follow. Now I normally pan the camera around and look back so you can see him, but as I said, we're a bit rusty. I haven't done that on this flight, so you don't get to see him while he's following me. But I've sped it up. We're flying out to a place called Howlong, which is about 13 kilometres away. And we will cross the Victoria-New South Wales border to get to Howlong. There's the Murray River below us. Now here I turn into the sun, and doing that, it causes JW to lose me. So he's lost me. And we're sort of thinking, oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to find a landmark out here that we can circle over and try and find each other? So just as I'm sort of thinking about that, lo and behold, I see this Ranger, there it is, fly over the top. So he's overshot me because of the sun. So I've asked him just to back off a bit, and I've applied quite a lot of throttle to speed up and catch him, which we've done. And then I'm going to lock in behind him, and I'll follow him for the rest of this flight. Now that's a Ranger 1600 that JW is flying. Certainly faster than the Elberbird. The Elberbird's a great little plane. It's reasonably efficient, but it's not fast. It's the only thing I would say. I'm going to change the props from 8x4 to 8x6, see if that makes a bit of a difference. And I sort of have to apply a little bit more amps than I would normally fly with to stay behind JW. I really don't like flying into the setting sun. It's not one of my favourite things. Not only is it annoying looking into the sun, but it also changes the colour and the contrast of everything on the ground. Makes it very difficult to see sometimes, and not all that easy to follow either. But we haven't done a lot of flying, that's why we're so rusty. It's been a terrible winter. We've had a lot of rain. It's been one of the wettest winters up here for a long time. And it's been cold, really cold. And there's been some lovely mornings to go flying, but I'm just not brave enough to go out in -3 or -4 degrees. It's just not nice on your hands. So we've held off. JW's been doing a bit more than me. But anyway, it's spring now and we're trying to get out as much as we can. Weather's still not really that favourable, but this day turned out to be quite good later on in the day. It's a funny site here. Where we take off from, as I said, is a bit higher than the surrounding area, and it's really good for video signals. However, because of all the buildings around near takeoff, it is a site where you can guarantee just about every flight that you're going to get some form of multi-pathing. And you always get it around about the same places, but ever since they've added a few more buildings recently, you do tend to get a little bit more. There was some earlier, but we fast forwarded through it. You never lose video, it just does tend to get a bit staticky and a bit washed out. Now, I've sort of got the hang of it again. I'm sort of following JW fairly well. There's a little bit of up and down. I've had to do some adjustment on this for the rates, and I think I toned the rates down a little bit too much with the elevator. So I tend not to give it enough stick sometimes, and then I have to overcompensate for it. Got a little bit close there. I find the MTD just such a better aircraft for following. It just so locked in. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the Alba Bird. The Alba Bird's a lovely little plane. Just a bit of a floater, and therefore not quite as good as other aircraft for following. As you can see, conditions aren't too bad. JW with his aircraft does tend to get tossed around a little bit more than I do. And there's a little bit of multi-pathing occurring there. We're both running UHF 433 video links. I'm using Dragon Link and JW is using Easy UHF. The two seem to get on okay with each other, although he does suffer a little bit, and I notice with my RSSI that my RSSI goes up and down quite a lot when we're near takeoff. But it works quite well together. the Murray River below us. At this stage, 11 kilometres, we know our destination is 13 kilometres away. And we keep saying, oh, are we heading in the right direction? Did I take a wrong turn? Where is How Long? The trouble with How Long is it's got so many trees around it that it's so hard to see unless you're very high up. Now I can just start to see it there in the distance between the trees. You can see a couple of white spots. And as we cross the river here, we see the field in front of us and say, ah, yes, we know where we are. And then we start to see the golf course. We're heading straight for the golf course. And there, all of a sudden, the town sort of appears. And we're coming in to beautiful downtown How Long. I love this flight. It's only 13 kilometres away. So, it's not as if you're doing a hugely long-range flight. It's just a nice flight. Very flat sort of country. Winding Murray River, which is quite good to look at when you're not looking into the sun. I see JW pulled away on me a little bit there. That's the thing with the Elba Bird, just not a speed machine. So you've got to keep on the throttle so he doesn't get away too far in front. Now I'm using, sorry about the SD footage, but I don't have a HD solution for the Elba Bird yet. I do not want to put the GoPro on. It's just too big and heavy for this thing. I know it would handle it, would fly okay, but no, it's a GoPro's not meant for aircraft this size. I was going to get the Cadix Tarsier, but I've just been looking online and it's no longer sold. So it looks like I'm going to have to get the RunCam Hybrid. It's a shame because I really did like the Tarsier. I thought it was the best looking of all the dual SD HD cameras. Always remember watching Keith at Bonaphoto Pirate reviewing it, and oh gee, I liked it. I really liked the footage on that. I think he's using the 4K hybrid, so I might go and look at some of his footage and see what it looks like. But I always thought the FPV feed from the Tarsier was brilliant, really, really good. I realise I've been flying for FPV for 12 years or a little bit more, and I haven't kept up with things very well. I'm still using a lot of old equipment, tried and tested equipment, and most of the FPV world is all about drones nowadays, quads I should say. Long range aircraft is, it's not many people doing it at all. So I noticed that right in the top left hand corner of this there's a bit of a black spot there. It's not a mark on the lens. I had JW clean it before we took off, but I think it's just the camera that needs to be replaced. This is a RunCam Swift 2. I don't think they make them anymore, so I'm going to have to work out what is another good FPV camera to get. I'm also thinking of getting another plane. I'm thinking of getting the Reptile Dragon V2 and also getting a Maytech board and putting iNav on. Now, don't get me wrong, the OSD that you see, the flight controller I'm using, it is the Vector, and without doubt is the single best product I have bought for FPV. It is. I love an OSD. I think it's very important when you're flying FPV, especially long range, and it's essential to me. I really, really love it, and the Vector does everything I want, except it doesn't do auto launch. But of course the Vector is now a dead product. It's end of life. So eventually things will fail and I'll have to move on. So everyone's doing iNav. I'm not a great lover of the the layout on screen. I know you can make your own layout with iNav, but it just doesn't look anywhere near as good as the Vector from what I can see. Getting close, but not quite there. So that's going to be an interesting journey for me. But yeah, I just feel that what we do with FPV is a dying hobby. I mean, everything regarding FPV now relates to quads. I've got nothing against the quads, but that sort of flying isn't my sort of flying. You know, just a long distance flight is what I love. Just discovering new territory, flying low over a long distance, as low as I can over a long distance. That to me is the most enjoyment I can have. I don't do power loops. I don't fly inverted or anything like that. It's just a personal thing. It's amazing going to ready-made RC and just not finding the products that you used to be able to buy there, looking for alternatives, and oh, gee, I have to say that there's a lot that just aren't up to scratch. One thing that's still going to this day is Dragon Link, and it's a great product. There's no doubt about that. And we're flying back. We've crossed back into Victoria. We're heading back home, and I will speed the video up in a little bit so you don't get too bored looking at it. As I said, this isn't a fantastic flight. This is just a bit of an evening flight for JW and me. Here we go, sped it up. When you speed it up like this, it shows you how good you are at following. If the aircraft stayed exactly in the same spot, you'd say you're doing a good job, but you can see here, it moves around a bit. Now we've decided just to detour a little bit to have a look at a little hill that pops out of nowhere. It's called Hermitage Hill. So we've veered off to go and have a look at it. Do a flyby. And correct back to logic. I think JW wants to do a bit of a left-hand turn here. Sightseeing again. There we go. There's the go-kart racing track. Here's all the buildings I'm talking about that create the multipathing. And you can see a bit of multipathing. There we go, perfectly timed. And there's the takeoff. And we've decided to follow the railway line, go on for a bit of a flight. I don't include that in this video. So I've cut to where we're heading back in. After heading a few kilometres down the other direction, I've cut back to where we're setting up for landing. As you can see, colours have changed. The sun is a lot lower in the sky. I've flown a total of 42 kilometres. A lot of that has been circling. Now we've used nearly 5 amps out of a 10 amp pack, so it's not too bad. When you're following, you tend to be on and off the throttle, so you do use a lot more power than what you would if you were just cruising at a constant velocity. Anyway, this building below us that never used to be there during all the other years that we used to fly here, it's only been recently built. I'm sure there's going to be more buildings added to this site. We don't fly here as much as we used to. But yeah, JW is coming into land. And he is landing uphill. It's only a slight uphill, but that's what makes the video quality and the FPV possibility so good here because of the height. You can just see there's a little bit of a ridge there. So coming up on 48 minutes of flight time. Voltage is 14.2, I suppose, when you take the power off. So these lithium ion packs are definitely the way to fly FPV, as long as you're not going to demand high amounts of power. If you're just going to go cruising, they're the great way to go. So we're setting up for landing here. Just got to be careful of a couple of light poles and that below us. Once we get clear of them, we can get down a bit lower. Brush over JW's head. There he is. And thank you all for watching. Hope to catch you again soon.